Hi, I'm Melanie, and this is Unfashioned, a podcast about unraveling what no longer fits and re-wearing what was always real. This week's story begins with the moment most of us never talk about, that quiet, exposed moment when you stand completely naked in front of your own closet. Nothing left to hide behind, just you, barefoot, on the floor, facing the life you've been wearing and the life you're about to choose. It's not glamorous, curated, or filtered. It's honest. Because when everything has fallen away, you're standing there in your own skin. And that vulnerability becomes the truest mirror. Standing in front of my own closet, I saw them. The few pieces still hanging there. Not the roles I inherited or the identities I had clung to out of fear, but the ones that stayed because they were mine. Because even naked, I could still recognize myself in them. Today, we're going to look at those pieces, the ones that were worth keeping, and choosing what you now want to hang in your closet. Let's figure out what still fits you in this new season of life together. When the unraveling finally settled, the first thing I noticed wasn't what was gone. It was the stillness of what stayed. My closet felt strangely peaceful. I stepped closer, still naked and unsure. I was expecting to feel the ache and regret of everything I had let go. There was so much space in my closet. But that isn't what happened. The emptiness in my closet didn't feel like a failure at all. It felt like possibilities. And in the middle of all that open space, my eyes found the pieces I had never taken down. Not because I overlooked them, but because they never asked to be reevaluated. They simply belonged to me. The truth is that I couldn't really see them before. They were crowded in the noise of everything else I was trying to be. Those pieces were buried under the roles I had learned to perform and lost in the layers I wore out of habit, fear, and survival. But now in the quiet, they stood out differently, clear, steady, and familiar, in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. These were the pieces I had been returning to without realizing it, the ones stitched into me, the foundations that held together even when I didn't. And in that moment, I understood that not every part of you disappears when you unravel. Some pieces were meant to stay. And this right here in the stillness is where the rebuilding begins. Not with emptiness, but with a few quality pieces strong enough to endure. When I realized the rebuilding didn't begin with emptiness, but with pieces strong enough to stay, I found myself thinking about their quality. Like real quality, the kind you recognize the moment you feel it in your hands. It reminded me of the vintage garments I've held 1,000 times, the quiet survivors that were built to endure whatever life asked of them. Garments that kept their structure through entire lifetimes. Garments that may soften after decades of wear, yet refuse to fall apart. These weren't garments made for a single season. They weren't stitched quickly or cheaply. You can feel the time that went into them, the attention to each seam, the care in each hem, and the choice to use fabrics that were meant to last and not fade. When something is made with this level of craftsmanship, it doesn't crumble when the world shifts around it. It holds, adapts, and survives. And somehow, it still fits you. Those were the pieces of clothing still hanging in my closet that I am finally able to see clearly. They were not fragile, not trendy, and they weren't the placeholders for who I used to be. They were timeless pieces, quality in the truest sense of the word. I didn't have many pieces left hanging in my closet, but the ones that remained felt like heirlooms, like a coat you never part with, or a fabric that warms you again and again. These pieces are the pieces that fit you in every chapter of your life because they were meant to. Of all the pieces that remained, one had a presence that felt different from the rest, like an heirloom that had been passed down through generations. It was motherhood. If the other pieces were beautiful garments that had survived time, motherhood was the one made from the thickest wool and stitched with loving hands. It was crafted to protect and to last. It wasn't a piece I consciously kept, but it had hung there waiting for the time in my life that I would be needed. It was never something I had to evaluate. It carries its history in its seams. The first cries, the first steps, the nights we didn't sleep, the years when I was learning about her as much as I was learning about myself. It carried warmth in the seams when I felt cold inside. It shaped itself to my body over time, becoming softer when I needed softness and stronger when I needed strength. Surprisingly, it was resilient in places that I had once believed would tear. And the amazing thing about this coat of motherhood is that it changes with you. It never fits exactly the same way twice, but it always fits. Motherhood wasn't a role I performed. It was a material woven into the fabric of who I am. A blend of instinct, presence, devotion, and evolution. It survived the unraveling because it was made from something far more durable than pressure, expectations, or identity. It survived because it was crafted from love. The kind of love that expands and rearranges you, the kind of love that teaches you how to rebuild even when you have no blueprint. And as I stood by the quiet closet, I realized I didn't want motherhood to look like it used to look. Not the version where I disappeared inside or the version where I earned my worth through sacrifice. I wanted to wear it differently now, with more breath and presence, with more room for both of us to grow into the women we were becoming. That's the beauty of a true heirloom piece. It carries its past, but adapts to your present. It belongs to you in every chapter, not because you hold on to it, but because it holds on to you. Motherhood may be the greatest piece that remained. It carries the most history, the most love, and the most truth. Seeing motherhood still fit swept through me like a sweet breath of fresh air. But as I stood in the quiet space, I realized it wasn't the only part of me that had survived. My kindness was still there, steady and natural, even after the years of being overshadowed. My humor had also stayed, offering me lightness when everything else felt dark. My intuition became clear again, now that the noises had faded. My creativity still unmistakable. My way of expressing myself brings me alive and reminds me of who I am. The connections that have shaped me were also still there. The old and new friendships that feel like home and the family that has carried me throughout my life. These traits didn't shout for attention. They didn't need to be chosen or protected. They simply stayed because they were woven into me from the beginning. Seeing them all together, simple and honest and intact, made me feel like I was rediscovering the truest parts of myself. These are the qualities I will use to refill my closet because they are the ones that still endure. As we near the end of this story, I'd like you to take a moment to think about your own closet. Not the physical one, but the one inside you. You see, not everything you've lived through has stayed. Not every version of you has made it to this chapter. But some things did, and I want you to notice them. The ones that remained quietly. The ones that didn't unravel even when you did. Maybe it's a strength you've forgotten you have, or a softness you're learning to trust again. It might be a dream, an instinct, a relationship, or that strong part of your spirit that has stood beside you without needing recognition. Whatever it is, let yourself see it, because it's where your rebuilding begins. I'm Melanie, and this is Unfashioned. Thank you for being here with me today and for spending this time inside the quiet, honest parts of your closet. As we move into the holiday week, I'm wishing you a wonderful Thanksgiving. Unfashioned will take a short break for the holiday, with new episodes resuming shortly after. In the meantime, please follow along and stay connected on our social media. I'll be sharing and updating little pieces of what's coming next. The links are listed below. Until then, take care of yourself, hold the pieces of you that endured, and I will meet you back here soon.